All right, good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Yomi and Masechet Shana. All right, getting through around halfway, a little more than halfway. I guess it was halfway. So we left off yesterday talking about whether one can change the Gzar Din, right? Whether there was a decree, whether it could be changed, and we sort of came to the conclusion yesterday. The Gemara was going to ask actually on both sides that for something but tzibur, that even if the tzibur can have this Gzar Din against the tzibur, they can daven and change it, but a yachid cannot change a Gzar Din. Fine, that's where we left off. So we see, I guess, second line from the top. Yeah, so so 2 lines on the top. Yeah, I think Gzar Din the Yachid tonight, and it turns out whether once there's a Gzar Din, once there's the finished decree, for even an individual's machlokes tonight, whether it can be changed or not. The tiny little Bryce said two people can go be in a hospital bed and both of them the same disease. Right? Or two people go to court and basically they have the same charges up against them. Right? One can get off the hospital bed and get cured, and the other one does not, or one can be found innocent, the other one found guilty. So why is one get up, or recuperate, and the other one doesn't, or one is found guilty, and the other one's not? One daven is answered, and his is and he's gets innocent or becomes healthy, and the one daven is not answered. What's the reason why one is answered, one is not? The one he says full to the shlema, he's not answered. So that was one there. So now it basically had to do with the completeness of the davening. Right? And he's kavein, as Rashi says when it says shlema, right? And Rebbe Elazar kan kaidem gzar din, kan nachar gzar din. One is for the Gzar Din, it can be changed. It was after Gzar Din, it was not able to be changed. It says Rabbi Yitzchak, no, a person even Saka, right, crying out, right, it could even be effective even after the Gzar Din. So you see, according to Rabbi Yitzchak, right, that even a Yachid la'achar Gzar Din does work. Gzar Din, now the Gzar Din, the Tzibur of Mikra. And can a Gzar Din of the tzibur, if it was already decreed, can that be torn up? One pasuk says, so the one pasuk says, right, that you should go ahead and like wash your heart from evil. The other one says, even you go ahead and you clean it, right, with the detergent, right, and nevertheless, your avera, right, will still be in front of me. So one seems like you'll have the avera and you can't do anything about it. And that one says, no, you can go ahead and you can cleanse yourself. So my lav kan kaidem gzar din, kan leachar gzar din. Is it now one is for gzar din? You go ahead and you launder it and clean it. I think it's trying to Bnei Yisrael, the psukim there. Yeah, I think there's a psukim over there in Bnei Yisrael. Yeah, in the Yirmiyah.
It's referring to Yachid or Tzibur? To
Tzibur. So the Gemara is assuming Tzibur. So the other ones, we already said Tzibur. So I think it was tying to Bnei Yisrael. Right, let me just. Yeah. I mean, I was tying to the people, right? Right. Yeah. So the Gemara says, no, idi la'achar gzar din. Maybe it means even the achar gzar din, one can be changed and one cannot be. V'lei kasha kan the gazar din sheyeshi mashuvah. V'kan the gazar din sheyeshi mashuvah. One gzar din without a shvuah, that one can be changed. But if there is a shvuah, Hashem makes a shvuah that this is going to be right, the end result, then that can't be lifted. Rav Shmuel bar Ami, like Rav Shmuel bar Ami. Then some say I'm a Rav Shmuel bar Nachman, I'm a Rabbi Yehuda's son. Minayin the gzar din sheishim shvuah shein nikra. From where do we know that a gzar din it has with it a shvuah, that it is not torn up? Shinamar, as the pasuk says, L'chein nishvati lebeis Eli. Right? Therefore, he swore at the Beis Eli, right, that it won't be there won't be atonement for the house of Beis Eli, even with karbanos. In other words, there was a shavua that those of Beiseli, those people will not live, live long days, right? The family will be cursed, Beiseli, and therefore, and not only that HaKadosh Baruch Hu do it because of the actions of his children who were not dealing appropriately with the kabbanos, but it went for many generations and it was a shua. And Amar Rava, the Zevav Mincha ain't mischaper. It's not mischaper. You can't get atonement, for living long through korbanos. Mischaper but Torah, but one could be mischaper through learning Torah. And Abayi Amar bezevach u'mincha ain't mischaper. But mischaper but Torah glus chasadim says Abayi. No, not just Torah. That was Rabba, I think actually. Yeah, that was no Rabba. That was Rabba. The previous one was Rabba, right? And he's but says Abai, not just Torah, but even also doing chasadim. Doing chesed would also basically tear up that decree or that push off that shvua. And Rabba the Abaye. And by the way, speaking of these two, Rabba and Abaye, and this one actually now says to Rabba, right? Rabba and Abaye. Beiseli cost. They came from Beiseli. Rabba the Osek b'Torah Chaya b'Mishana. He was only Osek b'Torah, so he lived 40 years, and Abai does the Torah L'Gimus Chasadim. Abai was also involved with the Torah L'Gimus Chasadim. Chaya Shisin Shana. He lived for 60 years. Fine.
They were descendants of Beiseli?
Yes.
Both Rabba and Rabba.
Right. So over here is
Rabba.
Right.
Rabba.
Yeah. The Mesorah Shas changes. It's weird because Mesorah Shas says when the little dollar there, right? That refers to Rava, right? But then later on, when it says that he lived for 40 years, it doesn't change it there. So I don't know.
40 years old.
Fine. Tana Rabbanan. Second last skinny line. Tana Rabbanan. But there was a family in Yerushalayim. They used to go. Their children would die Nebuch at the age of 18. So Baba did this. Rabbi Yechon Zaka, in front of Rabbi Yechon Zaka, told him what was going on. Amar Lahem, Shem Mishpacha Zeli At. Maybe you guys are from the house, the Mishpacha of Eli. The Chsi Bey says over there, we call Marvis Besacha Yamusu. Right, everyone who goes over in your house will die. So it says Yamusu Anashim. So Lechu Be'isku B'Torah, go learn Torah, V'chayu, and live. And Halchu, and they went and they engaged themselves in learning Torah, and the curse of dying at 18 ceased. And they called it the Mishpacha Rabbi Yechanan al Shmo. They could see, like they would call the family from B'Shem Rabbi Yechanan because of his tip, right? His eitzah for them to go ahead and live long. And Amar Rav Shmuel Bar Ina Mishmei Derav Minay Gzardin Shel Tzibur Sheina Nechta. Where do we see that Gzardin of Tzibur is not sealed? Sheina Nechta Maksibur means the Nechta of a Lefanai. Right, your favors would be sealed in front of me. Ella Afagav Shenichtam Nikra. However, no means even if it was went ahead and it was sealed, right? It was decreed. It can be torn up. Shinamar the pasuk says, "Kashem Elokeinu Gechol Kareinu Elav." So the pasuk says over there. Right? In other words, Hashem will be around whenever we call for him. Whenever we call for him, even Lachar Gzardin, we can go ahead and call for him. It says over there, right? Call out to Hashem, beseech Hashem, and he should be found. And we learn over there, he's found that sometimes he's close, sometimes he's far. So also b'yachid hachab tzibur. Over there is b'yachid. When it comes b'yachid, sometimes he's close, sometimes he's far. He's not always available. But when it comes with tzibur, that was whenever you call out, he'll answer. And b'yachid emas. So when do we say that sometimes he's found, sometimes he's not found? So when does the yachid find Hashem? So Amar Rabba, Baravu, Elu Asar Yamim Shebein Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. These are the 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur where Hashem is always available. The Shur Hashem. Right? I think one of the days of Slichos, right? Doesn't that day. So then Vayi was Kaseres Hayamim Vayigav Hashem as Naval. So it says after 10 days, then Naval he was right. Then they got him. Those of David, right? Soldiers of David. So Asar Yamim Avdi Asai. Why 10 days? Why was it pushed off for 10 days? So Amar Rav Yehuda Barav Keneged Asar L'Gimel Shenasa Naval Avdi David. So one opinion is the 10 days is a school that he gave, some food or whatever, some sustenance to the servants of David. So because of that, he was saved for another 10 days. And fine. And
If I remember the story correctly.
And it says over there, and then Rav Nachman, Amar Elu. No, the reason 10 days is because I guess he was davening to Hashem during those 10 days. Hashem was closer in those days between Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, and then only afterwards was he taken down.
The story of Nabal, he didn't want to give the food, and his wife gave the food.
Right, but there was sustenance given to the Avdei, David. So that's chus, allowed
them a little bit.
Right.
He didn't want to give them enough for everybody
Right.
out in the field.
It says v'nasan lahem suda achas. Lefichach nidlo asayam. Right, so it says. All right, and then we said the Rosh Hashanah, the two aspects of the quotes of the Mishnah, which we're finishing up now. Rosh Hashanah kol b'ya'elam oivim lefanim kivnei mara. During the days of Yom Kippurim, so everybody goes before Hashem, kol b'ya'elam, all those on this world pass before Hashem, kivnei mara. So zakti, what am I? Kivnei mara. So hacha tagima kivnei amrana, right? Like lambs, right? Like lambs going under when they're counting the sheep, one by one. So they come through one by one like sheep. Right? Lakish Omar, right? People pass the Kamala's Beis Mara, right? Like the passings of Beis Mara, which was elevated, it was a narrow bridge, right? Narrow bridge. It was walked one at a time. So it's over here. People are judged one at a time. And Rav Yudah Shmuel says Kechayelos shel Beis David, right? Also, like the soldier Beis David, that each one was inspected on their own. And Amr Rechana Rabbi Yechon Kula Niskarin B'skirachas, even though it's one by one, but they're all one. They're all like looked at the same time. They're all looked at together. And Amr Rav Nachman learn Hayitze Yachaliba. So he creates Yachaliba together their hearts. So maybe he understands all of their actions. So my comment was possible. Elam Hachi Kamer. This means what he's saying. The very nuclear alma that they were all created. Right, the creator created all together and made everybody like think alike. We see that the creator did not create everyone together, everyone alike, right? Ella rather what's child lav haki comes to say hayotzer. The creator roya yacha liba maybe same, right? He goes ahead and he looks at them all together at the same time and he understands each one. So now it's even though it's one by one, it's all done at the same time, and the creator can see in terms of each and every individual's actions, even though he does it all at once together. Fine. Now in Mishnah. This is I believe it's the second Mishnah now of Masechus Hoshana. Right, we took half Masech to get through it, but now it goes on. Mishnah at the bottom, 3 lines at the bottom. Al Shisha Chadashim Hashluf and Yitzit for 6 different months. Oh, it's third one. Oh yeah. What we're we talking about? Oh yeah, that's correct. Yeah. That's right. I was still thinking we were working off the list of Rosh Hashanah for the first one. So he say, Beis was Mekadesh, right? They used to be Mekadesh the Chodesh, and whether the new month would be on the day 30 or day 31. It depends if they saw the Chodesh. So for 6 months, they would send out the Shluchim to inform them as to when was Rosh Chodesh. Was it full or was it a short month? And then for Rosh Chodesh, came earlier. They sent out messengers from Yerushalayim to inform the other communities, right? In order to inform them, the Shluchim Lagola, right? So to tell them which exact day. If it was day 30, day 31. So on Nisan, you go on Nisan Mipnei Pesach because they want to make sure they do Pesach in the right time. The month of Av Mipnei Tanis, that they fast in the month of for Tisha B'av. Al Elul for Elul because they know when Elul starts. Therefore, they know that Rosh Hashanah is on day 30 Mipnei Rosh Hashanah. Al Tishrei. And they do it on Tishrei, Takanas Hamodos, also for the holidays, just in case that Rosh Hashanah was really, was the Elul was Malay, they would send out informants, the people from Yerushalayim, to tell them to make sure that they have Yom Kippur at the right time and Sukkot, Al Kislev, Bnei Chanukah, on Kislev because the holiday of Chanukah, Al Adar, Bnei Purim and Adar for Purim, Shabbos Minishkayim, Yotzin Af Al Iyar Mipnei Pesach Hakon. But during the days that when the Beis Hamikdash was around, they would send out even during the month of Iyar because of Pesach Sheni. Fine, that was the Mishnah. Zok the Gemara. I believe Nami Tammuz and Teves. What about Tammuz and Teves? Right? Why not Tammuz and Teves? Those, right? Those have fast days. The Omar, where do we see that? Right? We Shivos B'Tammuz, 17 Tammuz, and the Sarbatevis, right? The Omar, turn the page. Rav Chana Bar Bizna, Amar Rabbi Shimon Chasido. My Tzachsiv, what does the pasuk mean? So we're going to darshan this pasuk a lot today in Zechariah. Koma Hashem Tzavachos, Tzom Haravi, Tzom Chamishi, Tzom Hashvi, Tzom Asiri. Right? The fast of the 4th, the 5th, 7th, 10th. Yeah, LeBeis Yehuda, LeSasim, LeSimcha. Right? Will be for Beis Yehuda happiness, day of happiness. So it calls it a fast day. The Tzom, the fast of this, will be for happiness. So Karlu Tzom, Karlu Sasam Simcha. They
Gedalia, and then
no, they don't leave it out. We'll soon see. We'll soon see what we're referring to. So Karlu Tzom, the Karlu Sasam Simcha. So it calls these days Tzom, and it calls them also Sasam Simcha. Bisman Shei Shalom, yeah, L'Sasam Simcha. When there is Shalom, then it's Sasam Simcha. Ain't Shalom, Tzom, but there's no Shalom, there's no peace. Then these are Tzoms. So, but what do you see over here? You see that these are all fast days, right? There's no show, there's no base of Mikdash Kaim right now. So these days should be around. So there is a fast on Shivas Tammuz, and there is a fast on Asar B'Teves. So why don't we send messengers out so people fast and they mourn on the proper days? So Amara Papa Hachi Kama, this means to say Bisman Shei Shalom, when there is Shalom L'Sasal Simcha. When there's Shalom, then there's L'Sasal Simcha, and they're not going to be celebrated. No, they'll celebrate. They won't be fasted. Yesh gzeres hamalchus. If there's gzeres hamalchus, this is the bad decrees against Bnei Yisrael. Then Tzom. It's a day that one must go ahead and fast. Ain't gzeres hamalchus, but there is no gzeres hamalchus. Ain't shalom. There's no gzeres hamalchus, but there's also no shalom. No Beis Hamikdash. Then ratzah misanim, ratzah ein misan. If they want, they can fast. If they want, they don't fast. See over here. So that these days are not obligatory. Since they're not obligation, therefore, you don't, Beis Din doesn't have to go send up to tell them when Rosh Chodesh was. Ihachi.
Which would be sent out anyway.
So Ihachi, right? Tasba'av, right? The 9th of Av, Nami, should be the same thing. It doesn't single out that the Tisha B'Av is any worse than a Sarbatevis or Tammuz. It all seems to be that those 3, along with Tzom Gedalia, those 4 are basically have to do with the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. They're all linked together. So Yachi Tishav Nami Samarav Papa Shani Tasbav Hoyel V'Hukbul Batzar. Since there are many sorrows that occurred in that day, therefore that one is like it's mandatory. Damar Mar the Tasbav Chorav Habayis Rishayna. It was the first base mission was destroyed. Uvishniya, and that was and the second one was destroyed. The Nukda Beitar and Beitar fell. The Nichosha Ir, and then the city of Jerusalem was plowed over. So these 4 occurrences happened on Tisha B'Av, and therefore this one is more. We definitely mourn even when there's no Gzeres Hamalchus. Bnei Yisrael, nevertheless, this is considered to be a day of mourning. So Tani and Rabbi Shimon Arba Devarim Haya Rabbi Kiva Darish. The 4 things that Rabbi Kiva Darshan Va'ani Ein Darish Kamaisa, and for them, I do not darshan like him. And this is one of them. Tzom Haravi, the fast of the 4th, is that Tisha B'Tammuz. Shabo, right? The 9th of Tammuz. Shabo Hufku Ha'ir. That was when the city, right, was surrounded, right? Was put under when they broke in, right? They broke in. Shinamar, as the pasuk says, B'Tisha L'Chaydesh. Right, it was during the 4th month, right? This was in the 4th and the 9th day of the 4th month, right? That's when it was, they broke through the city. The Mari Karle Revi, why was it called the 4th? Revi L'Chadash.
The pasuk that they quote is in Yechazah. Arab, the famine.
Right. Yeah. Keep reading. Yeah. Right. They broke through. They broke through the city. Next bus. Next one on the line. Right. Fine. So, right. So the pasuk of right. So we. Right. It's probably, you have a tibaka ear. That's probably the next words of the pasuk. Yeah, that's the next words of the pasuk. Yeah, right. Yirmiyah, that's Vav and Zayin. It's the beginning of pasuk Zayin. Right. Now, the Ma'akar Levi. Why is it called the 4th? Revi l'chadashim, because it's the 4th month, right? Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, right? 4th month Tammuz, all right? Soma Chamishi, Zet Tisha B'Av. That is the 9th of Av. Shabbat Nisa Beis Elokeinu. That's when the Beis Elokeinu was burnt. The Ma'ikar Chamishi. Why is it called 5th? Because Chamishi the Chadashim. Because it was called 5 in terms. It was the 5th month, and so the fast Hashvi, right? Zed Gimel B'Tishrei, that's referring to the 3rd of Tishrei. Shabbat Nera Gedalia Ben Achikam. That was when Gedalia was murdered, right? And therefore, basically, that was basically the end of the era of the Bayis Harishon Jews when they were completely exiled. After that, even though the basis was already destroyed, but now this pushed them further into Galus. When Mihargon, who killed him, Yishmael ben Netanya. So is Yishmael ben Netanya Hargul Lemdecha to teach Shkulam Misasa Shal Tzadikim because Rivas Beis Elokeinu, to teach you that the death, right, of Tzadikim is like just like the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. My Karle Shvi, why was it called the 7th fast, right? Shvi the Chodashim, because it was during the 7th month, and Soma Asiri, moving for that is Asar B'Teves. That is the Teves is the 10th month, or is Asar B'Teves. Shabo Samach Melech Bavel al Yerushalayim, because that was basically when Melech Bavel surrounded Yerushalayim. Shnamar, as the pasuk says, "Vayidavar Hashem Elai b'shnas hatishis." The Chodesh Hasiri is the 9th year and the 10th month. The Chodesh Hasiri, be'esra the Chodesh in the 10th of the month. So it was Asar B'Teves. Lemor ben Adam K'sev L'cha es Shem Hayom. As Etzem Hayom Azes Samach Melech Bavel Yerushalayim. This is the day when he surrounded Yerushalayim. This is the day when he surrounded Yerushalayim, and therefore the 10th of Teves should be remembered as a fast day, right? Yud Chesam and Beis. The Amai, we're like 7 or 8 lines in the middle lines, right? The Amai Karle Asiri. Why was it called the 10th Soma Asiri? Asiri the Chadashim is the 10th month. And by the way, this should have been written in the beginning. This should be the first one, not the last one, because chronologically, right, this happened first. They were surrounded before the walls were breached, before they, was burnt down, before Gedaliah was killed. Why was it written first, Khan, or at the end? Because we want to do the months in order, right? It would make sense to do the months in order, and not to say, the 10th fast and the 4th, 5th and 7th. Yeah, so let's see. Vani ain't no American. I don't say that. Elat Soma series Chamisha B'Teves. According to this opinion, he holds it was the 9th. The 5th of Teves was so Tzoma Siri is referring to the Chamish B'Teves Shabo Shmuel L'Goyla, because that's when the Shmuel came to the city when they heard about L'Goyla that the city was basically completely destroyed. Right, so that was when word got back that Yerushalayim, right, was destroyed, and therefore they made that day a fast day. So that occurred with Teves. That was not the 10th of Teves, where the beginning surrounding. Rather, this was the 5th of Teves, which was completely after the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. Shnamar, Shana, Bahi B'Shtei Esrei Shana, B'Asiri in the 10th month, B'Chamisha L'Chodesh in the 5th of the month, L'Gulosena Bo Play B'Yerushalayim Lemor Huksair. Right, and therefore that was
what?
Yes.
Shana. It was in the 12th year
of his reign of whoever they did. Yeah.
Ruled for 11 years.
So it's the 10th month. This month, the 5th of Teves. So therefore, he said, and he said, "Huksair v'asu yom Shmuel ki yom Sreiva." And they made that day, right, like the day when they heard, like the day of destruction. Therefore, they made that day a fast day, which was in the 5th of Teves. V'nirin devarim b'dvarav, and however, my words appear better there. Shani Omer al Rishon Rishon al Achron Achron, because according to me, and this was all stated by Rabbi Shimon, right? Who disagreed with Rabbi Kiva? He says mine makes more sense because mine go in chronological order, right? In terms of what the walls were breached, and then that was destroyed. So then they killed Gedaliah, and then afterwards they came the complete destruction of Yerushalayim. But in chronological order, he says the first one his first one should be the last one should be the first one. Rather, he was counting by right. He went the fast in terms of the months. And I said in terms of the occurrences, right? So over there, that one does list, Alan, like you pointed out, that was for Tzom Ravi, right? The one of Tammuz, right? It listed over here as the 9th of Tammuz, right? As opposed, Batisha L'Chodesh, right? As opposed to, we nowadays do the 17th, right? So the Gemara in other places, I guess, discusses in terms of why the 17th was over the.
Close brings it there.
Yeah. It does, right? So right. But the second one, right? That was the first one, but the second one, Hufko be at Zion. Shemhachi Avdina be at Zion, Tinus. That's why we do Tinus. I'm just bringing from the Tusses. Right. And this exact price, which is brought down, and Yishami actually lists the 17th of Tammuz and not the 10th. It says that, right? Fine. Okay, fine. Very good. So Itamar. So back in the Gemara, Rav Chanina, they say Butla Megillas Tainus. Now, so Megillas Tainus is basically written during the times of Tanaim. It was a list of different days of salvation that occurred to Bnei Israel, and these days were basically written down for as days of celebration, as these small holidays for no Tachnun, right? They wouldn't be haspedim. They wouldn't have any public fasts on those days because these days were known of days of salvation. So says so they say, but Megillas Tainus, after the destruction of the temple, anything listed in Megillas Tainus, basically we don't. Those days are no longer celebrated. However, they said no. Love about the Megillas Tainus, it still applies. It's not but. Rav Chanina Amri, but Megillas Tainus, how he comes to say, but it's man she shalom l'sas and l'simcha. When there is shalom, is a base of mikdash, so therefore, then these days are celebrated. These days are celebrated, and therefore, then we have right, and so therefore these days are observed. However, in shalom, but once there was a destruction, then these 4 fast days that we mentioned, the 4 fast days, those 4 fast days apply. Right, Shivas B'Tammuz, Asar B'Teves, those apply, and therefore, since those apply, those Stom apply, B'Inach Nami Kihani, and therefore these now don't apply. So therefore, these are batal. So since the Beis Hamikdash, when the Beis Hamikdash was around, so those days were celebrated, and there was no fast. When the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, then we get back to fasting, and since we're fasting, then the other ones are nullified. And Rabbi Yechon, Rabbi Shua, Levi Amri, they say no. Lo but Megillas Tainus. No, it's not but Megillas Tainus. Hani hu Talinu Rachman B'Nei Beis Hamikdash. Right, that these were told Beis Hamikdash about the Beis Hamikdash. About Hinach Kedekaimi. Now, as the ones, the fast days, those were told Beis Hamikdash. When the Beis Hamikdash was around, they were not fasting on the on the 9th of Av. Once it was destroyed, then they went back to that. But the other holidays, Megillas Tainus, those are forever celebrated or observed. Mesa Rav Kana, Maisa. One there's Maisa Gazu Tainus B'Chanukah. One time there were geyser a Tanis, a fast during Chanukah, Balut during Lut. The Yared of the Ezer and Rabbi Ezer went there, the Rochas, and he washed to prove that it should not be a fast day today during Chanukah. And Rabbi Shua went the Sefer, got a haircut of Amrlan. Su Visanu Almash Behisanisa. Right, go ahead and fast. You guys need to fast, basically do tshuva for fasting on Chanukah. Okay, so now Chanukah was written in Megillas Tainus. That's where it originally came from. So what do you see from over here? That even after the destruction, right, they were observing Chanukah. And therefore, since they're observing Chanukah, they shouldn't have fasted during Chanukah. So what do you see over here, right? That Chanukah was being observed. Chanukah is being observed. Megillas Tainus is being observed. So Gemara says, no, I'm Rabbi Yosef Shani Chanukah. Chanukah is different, right? That we even without it, the Ika mitzvah, right? Because the mitzvah of lighting the menorah. So I'm really mitzvah. So okay, so we mevatel Chanukah, we mevatel the mitzvah of lighting candles. In other words, why? Okay, so if it's canceled, Chanukah should be canceled, right? Like all the other holidays. Rabbi Yosef Shani Chanukah, the Mefir say Nisa, because now there's Persuma Nisa, therefore Chanukah is still observed because there was a special nace, and therefore to go ahead and to publicize the miracle that observed in the Beis Hamikdash. Therefore, we continue it. So Ma'asev Rav Acha Bar Huna, so he has a kasha, says B'tlas B'Tishrei and third Tishrei B'tlas Adikarasa min shtaria. So on the 3rd of Tishrei was they were mevatel mentioning of Hashem's name in a regular shtar. That was Hashem's name used to be in the shtar, and therefore there was a lot of shtaros that would end up in the garbage, and Hashem's name would be thrown out in the garbage, right? Right. So what happened? That in the beginning, the Malchus Yavan says no mentioning of Hashem's name, period, at all. However, when the Chashmonaim won their victory, he's going to show you. He says, "No, what they abolished mentioning Shem Shemayim. We're going to have Shem Shemayim everywhere, and not only everywhere. Afilu b'shtaros, even in shtaros, a regular document. I give someone a loan document. We're going to use Shem Hashem, Hashem Yud Vav here, Hashem Elokeinu, whatever it is. Hashem's name will be on it." And they were mentioned the Kel Elyon. How when the Chachamim heard this, these Amalek says, what's going to happen? This person's going to go ahead and pay back his document. So he'll give him back the document. The document will be, worthless now. Right? And then they'll throw it on the garbage. Hashem's name will be in the garbage. So they revatel this. They said, no more writing Shem Hashem Kel Elyon on the shtaros, on the documents. We're done with that. And it was and that day was a celebration. They celebrate no longer being throwing out Hashem's name. Now, that's about the Megillas Tainus. Now, if you think that about the Megillas Tainus, right? That's about the Megillas. That's a Kamaisu Batel. So they got rid of all the old holidays, right? Right, and this one came after. So they're going to make new ones. No, it's Megillas Tainus came earlier. Now they're going to make new ones. So we're answering so basically just Kayim. No. The reason why those still applied, and also this one will apply, is because this was while the Beis Hamikdash was Kayim, and since the Beis Hamikdash was Kayim, so therefore they're able to, even in addition to the original Megillas Tainus, they're also able to go ahead and add this other day, the 3rd of for the 3rd of Tishrei, and the Gemara is going to go on and further look into the date of when this occurred. So we'll continue tomorrow with Hashem from here. Everyone have a